Oh, the Saw movies. They got a certain distaste on them with the torture porn category. And for the longest time, I never seen the Saw movies because of people saying it's gory and gross. And yes, the other Saw movies are just that. But after watching many of James Wan movies, I became a fan of his films. All his movies are so different and have this unique horror to them. But then there's Leigh Whannell and his directorial debut of Upgrade, which the Upgrade movie inspired me to be a filmmaker, so I finally got the balls to watch the first Saw movie. And you know what? I was surprised how good it actually was. You people say all the Saw movies are this nasty, distasteful gore or torture, and sure, they're not wrong at all, but the first Saw movie is so different from all the 8 sequels. Yeah, there's that much. But the 2004 Saw movie is basically a psychological thriller. The torture is on the back burner the whole time, because that's not what the Saw movies are about. And it really shocked me how there's barely any gore. Like, this movie I think could have been a PG-13 easily. There's really only flashes of gore, like a second flash and it's over. But what James Wan did so well was less is more. And to movies, this is the most important thing. But yes, it's fine to show gore in movies or TV shows and to shock the audience. But what people remember is the ones that don't show the gore at all. I know. Weird, but it's so true. Because if you look at movies people say are disturbing, those movies barely show the gore. A Clockwork Orange, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Those 2 movies are people claim are the most disturbing, but they barely show gore. It's all because the reactions from the characters that make it scary. Also, it's your brain, like I said on the Clockwork Orange video. Your brain thinks of the worst to solve the puzzle the movie isn't showing. And James Wan did the exact same thing. He barely showed the gore. Yes, it was because they had a limited budget, but it was essential. Like I said, they only show flashes of it. He really just shows the aftermath, or he shows the characters' reactions. It's the smartest way for the audience to remember your movie for a long time. And yes, of course I got some issues with the movie. Not much so. Really, it's the editing that sometimes bother me, but it's very minor. Like, the movie likes to speed up the footage or cut it where it makes it outdated, to be honest. I thought it was fine because it added to the legacy of the Saw movies. So it starts with the 2 characters trapped in this huge rundown bathroom. They're chained up, they really don't know why they're there. But as the movie goes on, you understand why they're trapped in this room. And what I really enjoyed about the movie is it's basically an escape room. They have to figure out a way to get out of there. And lots of people don't point that out. And I wonder, did the Saw franchise create escape rooms? But when we first meet these characters, they're innocent. And it reminded me of another great horror movie that really no one talks about. And it's the movie Cube, where there's 5 people trapped inside this huge room, and it's the shape of a cube. And one of the characters, who for the longest time is the main character, acts out nice and innocent. But as the movie goes on, the more angrier and violent he gets. The same for the 2 victims in the Saw movies. They start out innocent, but as the movie goes on, they have these flashbacks where they show how these 2 characters acted before this whole mess. We see the doctor, or his name Larry, but I think doctor's better than his real name. And he works at a hospital, of course, because he's a doctor, and he's always there. He never has time for his other life as a father and a husband to a wife. It starts putting a strain on his marriage. It's even stressing out his daughter from hearing her mother and him fighting and arguing. We even see him cheating on his wife with a woman we never get a name. He really takes life for granted. Leigh Whannell's character, He's a freelance photographer who takes money from people wanting him to take pictures of things, even if some of it can ruin someone's life. Lee Whannell's character doesn't really care, he just wants the money. And what this movie does so well is how Jigsaw's murders are torturous, but the victims always has these dark secrets. They're always not so innocent, like the second murder was a burnt man. But we get flashbacks of the victim, and he pretended to be sick all the time. Jigsaw's whole motive is people take life for granted. They use it like a puppet until it's too late. Jigsaw isn't this no mercy killer. He wants to send out a message. He wants people to live life, spend time with your loved ones. Just never take life as if it's a puppet to use. The first murder really showed this well. Warning, it does have situations of suicide. So the victim, who was killed in a trap of barbed wire, he wanted to kill himself. But when Jigsaw trapped him in the barbed wire, he panicked. He didn't want to die like this. He wanted to live. That's why it's heartbreaking when he doesn't make it, of course. Yes, and there's the sequels that ruin the whole meaning behind the first Saw movie and his motives, because the sequels just have these torture scenes for no reason except for shock. Reasoning for them to be in this trap never makes sense. For sure, there's some fine Saw movies from the franchise, but it never comes close to the first Saw movie. When Jigsaw puts his victims in these traps, the whole test is, can you learn from your mistakes? Or are you just blind to it? There's always a timer to life, and don't waste it before the timer runs out on you. So now let's talk about the trash sequels. But to be fair, the first 3 Saw movies are the best out of all 9 movies. So Saw 2 is basically the same as the first one, but this time it's 5 people trapped in a building, but each person has their troubled past, like the first movie. But what makes the second movie as good as the first is it has frickin' Donnie Wahlberg. Yup, that's what makes it better. I'm joking, of course. But yes, there's another detective, and it's Donnie Wahlberg, and he's a corrupted cop. And the trapped people in this building are all related to Donnie Wahlberg, putting false evidence in their records and crimes. So whoa, you could say Donnie Wahlberg was the real bad guy. But yeah, Saw 2 is a fine movie to watch. But after the third movie, it just gets completely unbearable to watch. I mean, it's real unfortunate. I mean, James Wan and Lee Whannell created this very unique movie no one has ever seen, where it created numerous new categories of movies. And the studios had to ruin it. This once perfect movie was killed by the studio, where they kicked the dead horse over and over. Where we're just gonna get another Saw movie, Spiral, that looks average, looks like a ripoff of 7. But there's something I think we all can agree on. Saw 2004 is the most unique horror movie of the early 2000s. Oh yeah. Please subscribe, like, share, but most importantly, subscribe. You guys are the best. See ya. Peace out.
People are so ungrateful to be alive. But not you. Not anymore. Game over.